Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street, an XRP video for you guys today, talking about two specific subjects that have come out of the sphere of XRP and Ripple the last week or so. Obviously had an amazing run in the market over the last few months. We'll recap on that when we go into the chart shortly. But yeah, we'll talk about Ondo Finance, this element of the government's financial system coming into XRP Ledger as well. And DEX. So XRP's DEX has shown some really good numbers on a daily notion in relation to how much money is coming into that as well and being utilized. We'll just talk about the significance of both of those for certainly the months to come, yet alone the years to come for XRP Ripple. So before we do that, don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel. Loads of different topics and discussions already in play on the channel. Don't forget as well, if you haven't done so already, smash that subscribe button and hit the like button as well if you're enjoying the content. Do let us know in the comments below if there's any tokens or projects you want us to cover that we don't already. Let's go straight into this first topic on Ondo Finance. So the US Treasury offering joins the XRP Ledger. This is really good. Obviously, the news from the last few weeks and last few months in general about the election and reinstatement of Donald Trump's administration into governmental power in the US. It's opened the doors really for so many technological advancements, but also that kind of notion around the US companies, if you like, being at the forefront of the rise of the US again. Whether it works out, of course, will remain to be seen. But as we know, Ripple being a massive US company, I think it would speak volumes there as well. Now, on top of that, certainly in the last couple of weeks, this article in particular is from yesterday. I think the news maybe 2 or 3 days old in general, but certainly like reported in mass over the last 48 hours. So Ondo Finance introduced its tokenized US Treasury offering, OUSG, to the enterprise-focused XRP Ledger network. This word enterprise is a very big focal point here as to why that's important. Of course, we can deal with retail investors, this, that, and the other, but the element of trade finance and finance in general is absolutely huge from an enterprise commercial level. We're talking about trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars worldwide transacted, and it's these kind of things coming onto the likes of XRP Ledger is what really us holders of XRP have been waiting for many, many years. I personally got into XRP as an investment around about 2020, maybe 2019 is one of my first ones. There's going to be a load of you out there maybe that have been investing since maybe the early days of 2012, 13, whatever. But knowing the future capability of blockchain, this ability of DLTs, the distributed ledger technologies that are out there. And there's so many blockchains out there at the moment, of course, but there's going to be a very selective few that actually get chosen or utilized in the frameworks that governments and regions around the world will actually be using as proper frameworks. So from the aspect of tokenized real-world asset platform, is bringing us 185 million US Treasury token to the enterprise-focused XRP Ledger network to expand the offering for institutions, the company said on Tuesday. Now, real-world assets is a topic that's been around for many, many years. Certainly the application or the opportunity of that can really enable pretty much any sector to be involved. This can relate to things from houses to cars to general things like, I say general, not many people have diamonds, but pretty much anything and everything that is in a physical format could be digitalized. Most people call it an NFT from years ago, but generally speaking, the real world asset mechanism is probably the correct terminology for most of this now. So anything in the real world, anything that has a residual value can be tokenized. And that includes things, as I mentioned earlier, about housing. The incorporation of that is really interesting because you've got things like the smart contracts element that can help with the deed verifications, the transfers of a house from a buying, selling perspective, the identification of people within that as well, all being done within a matter of minutes or hours rather than months or even sometimes years, depending on the valuation of the property or land that's in question. So there's some really interesting elements to this. As I said, there's a number of articles here. You can go and check them out yourselves. But look at this, tokenized bond market could hit 300 billion by 2030. That's absolutely phenomenal. So there's some really good articles here, loads of statistics and data. The significance really of all these elements, of course, it's bridging that traditional finance element or TradeFi and crypto together more substantially, in my opinion. So we've seen a lot of examples and case studies across many different chains and projects. But I think one of these kind of topics are almost underestimated. Maybe perhaps they don't sound fancy enough, or they're not exciting enough, or they're just not meme coins or something that people maybe just mistake them, or just don't have too much thought process around them. But this is essentially enabling investors to access the US Treasuries in a decentralized format. So obviously blockchain allowing that transparency, the verification, the processing, etc. So rather than doing this through traditional banking or brokering, or brokerage, if that's a better word, you can be doing this through decentralized elements. So I think that's really phenomenal. And it's a major step, in my opinion, when we're talking about that integration of the traditional finance instruments with blockchain or DLT technology. The efficiency, if you want to go around a sustainability route, of course, that will tick that box. But from a perspective of efficiency and maybe enhancing liquidity, these are two huge elements as well. So it can open up definitely new user cases, like we just mentioned some of those just a minute ago. But we can also see the element of the, real-time settlement. I've always talked about this in the past. We're talking about transactions per second, how many can be done, and what's the usual process. Well, if I sent you money, it may show up in your bank account, like on your phone or whatever, quite quickly. But actually, the processing of that in the background is still happening. In some cases, it can take up to 7 days. So if we're going to decrease that amount to even like minutes, hours, or even seconds, which is pretty much what they can do now, you can think how fast the economy can grow and how things can be done quicker in this world. A lot of the time, businesses are restricted from spending more money or buying more product or supply to others because of things like credit and debiting, waiting for those transactions to process and confirm. It's like if I bought a stock of product, say like 100 units or something, and I've got those on credit for you, i.e. I owe you money, I haven't got it right now, but I'm going to pay it in 30 days time, plus the processing aspect of that. You might not give me more product until that's paid off, or you might need to increase my credit, obviously based on trust mechanism and being paid on time. So therefore you're like, okay, this company's a good, reputable company, it's trustworthy, I'll give them more credit to be able to buy. It's the same in the consumer market, in that element as well. But if we can process these transactions quicker and verify them and have them done quicker in that aspect, it would be really good for the economy and loads of other elements to it as well. So that's why I think one of the key aspects and representations of why the OUSG is looking into these kind of patterns of efficiency and development utilizing XRP Ledger. Of course, you've got the regulatory and the transparency perspective, always ticks that box and pretty much relates to what I just said. And of course, from an investor's perspective, is utilizing XRP Ledger more so than ever before. The utilization of XRP as a token, of course, will attract more institutional and retail investors. So bear in mind, yes, we're talking about enterprise here, but there's a lot of consumer activity that can be done within this. Anything that we're buying and selling in shops or online or whatever, as well as the enterprise levels of the trade finance or traditional finance, are massive markets, both of them. And I guess they've been selected really just from that set and one time perspective, 3 to 5 seconds, I think. The low transaction fees, in some cases, maybe not even a fee at all, or very minimal to the point where it's not even worth considering as a fee. A lot of blockchains boast that, but this, bear in mind, guys, is a fully adopted ledger, been around for a number of years. At that enterprise level, you've got to really think in your minds that this is a very sustainable, well-structured platform to work on. So there's that aspect, of course. You've got the decentralized exchange aspect, we'll talk about in a second, because that relates heavily to the next article that we'll talk about. But this is all really behind the aspect of the institutional interest growing, and it's built for this as well. So it's a natural fit, in my opinion, just from that tokenized real-world asset approach as well. And I can see this just gaining more and more traction, more and more projects. I'll call it a project. It's not massively as a project, but certainly the offering. I can see more of these offerings occurring through XRP Ledger as time goes by. The final point before we go into the chart quickly, as around the XRP Ledger's Decentralized Exchange, or DEX, has processed over $1 billion in cryptocurrency swaps since 2024 launch, $400 million in January alone. I believe that's from 2024 because I doubt they have the full data for this month, averaging $17 million daily. That was announced, I think, yesterday from the community day that Brad Garlinghouse hosted. Of course, that has some reputable, distinctive points there as to why that's important as well. Of course, it's gaining the traction. Again, going back to the point of XRP as a token, really good news. We've also got the element here of expansion kind of beyond the payments. We've already talked about Ondo, of course. We're talking about decentralized finance being collated with this. Stablecoins, we know about the Ripple stablecoin, liquidity pools, all these things coming together very, very nicely, in my opinion. And I think when we go into the chart in a minute, we'll talk about like the price point of XRP. We've already talked previously about where we think it could go in this market and in the future. But all of these narratives, all these thought processes, all of these actual real world case studies are really defining XRP. Finally, now that it's getting the shackles removed from the SEC situation, it's really phenomenal. So you've got all of these things gaining traction. Yes, okay, from the last 48 hours, the price hasn't gone gigantically crazy with all this really interesting and exciting news, but we've got to also understand the variables of the other market elements, other assets, etc., playing their part, and where we are in the cycle also. So many, many things to think about that as well. And of course, with all of this, even affecting the price point, is eventually the XRP-based ETFs could be on the horizon. Now, there's so many rumors and things going on around this, but what you're looking at when you're trying to create an ETF, of course, you want fully stable projects or companies involved, certainly ones that have good liquidity and traction, and case studies, like real-world case studies and adoption. And I think when we're starting to tick all these kinds of boxes, whether it's Ondo Finance, the DEX itself, about the stablecoin, all the great things that are coming out news-wise with Ripple and XRP at the moment, this is what constitutes, in my opinion, a successful proposal for creating an ETF. There's no doubt in my mind that this ETF will occur. Whether it's this year or next year remains to be seen, or maybe in the nearer future, who knows. But it really does have that kind of thought process as this is really on the horizon. Of course, in my opinion, if this is successful, it could be absolutely game-changing for XRP adoption, and that's just the token as well, let alone the company itself. Bitcoin ETFs have done really well thus far. They're still in the early phases, but look at the traction there. Yes, the bull cycle obviously helps, but I do believe that Bitcoin's price has gone from that 70 odd range up to the 100 and plus range because of things like this. It's becoming more accessible. So if you've got a load of people out there that just don't like the philosophy of crypto or exchanges or anything like that, they can go for an ETF. They can be using it as a pension fund. They can be buying into it through their normal trading platforms. That's what they've been waiting. That is mass adoption. That's what everyone's been calling out for. So yes, we've just had a great advantage of being able to get these tokens before any of that even happened. This is why it's still so early. The window is closing, or the door is closing shut slowly. How big that window left is maybe a few years. Who knows? It might be quicker than that. It might be slightly longer. But it's all happening in front of us. And that's why we've got to take the understanding of what's really going on and what's going to be happening. And that really helps dictate as well the price points. So this is probably a good time to jump into the XRP chart here. I'll wrap this up fairly quickly. So currently trading as a recording $3.08. I think yesterday or the day before we penetrated down to around 260. So if anyone captured that and then coming back up, then fair play to you, because people are saying, well, it's stable. Well, actually, if you are a day trader or trade regularly with XRP, even in the last month or so, you've probably made some really good profit markers here, because we've had these huge bounce ups from $3.40 down to $2.80, back up to $3.30, down to $3. The movement's been crazy. This is all really up to the point where we've had massive overpurchasing. We had this big uprise from November, taking us from 45 cents to the $3 mark. Absolutely huge gain there. We talked about it in previous videos, 479% gain. Since then, the retraction back down to $2, and then an uprise again back in January after all the administration talk, etc. in the US, back up to $3.30. now stabilizing just over the $3 mark. Now, if I just zoom in slightly, there's two areas of interest I want to talk about. Okay, they're not on the line directly, but we talked about that in the past. The fib levels, always a guideline. And yes, they might not be fully accurate, probably because I haven't placed them exactly on point. But the ideology is still there, and that's why we don't go, oh, I'm going to buy or sell at these exact lines. I'm always going to have something slightly above and slightly below because of that element. However, my point being is that we are very much aligned on a middle fib level here and one of the short-term ones. These are currently set around 294. If we can stabilize above this number, and to be fair, if I was to recalculate some of these fib levels on proper accuracy with highs and lows, it probably is nearer where we are in this mark of around 309 or maybe even $3. But anyway, the point being is if we can stabilize ourselves within this marker of 293 and 330 a bit longer, maybe in the next week or two, this could give us the traction, albeit we may retest the 290s a bit more. We may even come and retest these 258s a bit more. It rejected it, by the way, a few days ago, as we just mentioned, albeit hit. If you actually look at this one here on one of the midterms, April 2024 markers that I put in here, it literally touched down on it and shot itself straight back up to above these levels here. So this is the stable area that we're of interest here. I'm just going to remove some of these circles so we're not confusing ourselves here, and I'm just going to draw in a new one to show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to leave that one there because that's part of the conversation. So literally within this marker here is where we want to be for the next couple of weeks. For us to gain the traction, we can have a few more bounces off, we can come and retest this area as well, but ideally we need to be around this area specifically for us to take us to a potential another level. First of all, to hit above that current resistance level around 358, to then take us up to the higher levels. I'm still standing by that. I think we could get to at least $5 potentially in this market. Some are boasting $10 and beyond that. I think we're still quite early with the adoption elements of it. Let's take it step by step. Going from like 45, 50 cents in a project like XRP that has so much money in it already, so many investors in it already, it's going to take even more money than ever before to get to these higher numbers. And that's where the institutional level comes in, the mass adoption kicks in, and the mass availability of XRP kicks in. That's where I think we get above and beyond the $10. Again, back to my point earlier, I think that might be in the next cycle. Who knows? But that's a target point for me, at least at $5. I think it'd be happy days for a lot of people that were investing like I did with XRP around sort of 10, 12 cents back in the day. Even people who are investing at 45 cents up to maybe even dollar to an extent. You know, quadrupling your investment is still really good going, even if you're doubling. Like, profit is profit, right? It's just how you utilize that in the buying and selling methods moving forward. So they're my key areas of interest to look out for. From a selling perspective, as you know, I've been selling up in this upward trend at different areas. My next kind of area of interest is literally going to be when hopefully we get towards that 350, 360 mark. Then the next markers are very much around the $4, just under. So maybe like 387 and maybe above that by maybe 412 or something like that. Before I start reanalyzing and going to like $4.50, $5, I just want to see these markers first. But we also need to see, because of this over purchasing power here over the last 2-3 months, as to whether we will condense ourselves and retract back down to these lower regions to maybe potentially bobble around here for a bit before tracting up for the next cycle run. Some people are arguing that it's going to be March and April. Who knows? The market may be dead already. We don't know. That's why we have to consider all the different variable options and put our strategies to the test in these various areas. No one knows the exact answers. Yes, the rumors are there. Yes, the traction of big financial institutions is there that this year is going to be huge, etc., etc. But you just never know. You never know. So just play it by ear. I'm not a financial advisor. I just go based on my previous experiences and some of these marker points. There are good data value in both the selling mechanism and the buying. So let me know what you think about that. The RSIs on the bottom left, around about 60 on both the 14-day and 28-day respectively. So there's still room for improvement, but equally it's edging towards that kind of 50 mark. So we just got to be wary of that movement. It's very much in a limbo stage at the moment. Let's see how it goes in those markers. The week is slightly down. However, look at these greens on the 6 months, the 3 months, the 1 month. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. If you look at CoinMarketCap, actually, you can see that if you move it to like I think it's the month view, you'll see that it's been a really good, stable, 30 days or so. So I think that's where we're waiting. We're now waiting for a retest, or we're waiting for the confirmation that we can go up to the next level. It's exciting stuff, guys, either way, because I think we're finally seeing the fruits, reaping the rewards to the extent of what we believed XRP could be in the future. The future is here now, in the present, and now we're looking forward to those next steps. Thanks for watching the video, guys. We'll see you in the next XRP video. Take care. Bye-bye.